So when we met yesterday, we talked about project manager being the leader and is responsible to develop the understanding of the project, and how can he develop this understanding with the team. It is first to know what the project is about. How he can know the project is about, for what the project is about is that he has to go through a lot of documentation review. He has to get the understanding from the sponsor, and he has to go through the SLAs, contracts, SOWs. Once he has developed the understanding, now it's the time to brainstorm with the team, and then how to do that. Like we have discussed about various techniques such as um, brainstorming and product box technique, and using similes, using metaphors to describe the product, service, or the result that we want to achieve. So once the vision is clear, we can say that all of us are looking towards single goal. Let's jot down our project charter so we know our project very well now. Project manager will also know that what are the constraints about the project, like the time, cost, and money, and he can set up he's in the position to fill all the details required for the charter, starting from the who is the sponsor, what are the time and money constraints for the project, what is the success criteria for the project, and what are the summary milestones, or how many phases this project will have. So when all this information is clear, we can jot down, we can draft our charter, and the kickoff meeting is a venue which is called for to present the charter to all the stakeholders, that this is the formal kickoff of the project. So project manager will present a charter that we are here to discuss about the project with all of you being the key members of the project, and this is the objective of the project. We have some dependencies, we have some risks, issues, all are highlighted. So that gives us um, a chance uh, to formally start the project. Now, with the yesterday discussion, we closed that as a project manager, I will be setting the project vision statement, and then as a PM, I will be responsible to develop shared understanding with the team. I can utilize various techniques which we discussed, but the objective is that team should know the objective as well, like you and project manager will call for a kickoff meeting as well, and with the draft project charter ready with him or her, and they will go through the each section of the charter together with the all the stakeholders, and they will set up the key dates for the key milestones like together. So it should look like that we are not taking a plan from the project manager, but we are jointly setting up the dates, realistic dates for the milestones at high level together with the project manager. So the idea is that before we begin, we should know what is required to be achieved, when it is required to be achieved, and once it is done, how we will be uh, approving it, validating it, verifying it, what is the success criteria looks like, and during the project that we have taken up, if there will be any issues, then how we will be handling those issues, the risks, the ground rules that we talked about. So PMP exam questions will be built around these scenarios, that you are a new project manager, you just started the project, and you have a lot of stakeholders identified as well, but there are certain stakeholders which were not present in the kickoff meeting. Now, how you would engage with those stakeholders? So there will be various options given for you, such as you will again call for a kickoff meeting, or you will look for number of ways to interact with those stakeholders, take their opinion, consider their opinion while you draft the scope of the project. So there will be various options, but you should know that the scenarios will be built around that project manager is struggling, the team does not know about the project, and we already kicked off the project, but there are still misunderstandings. So these these questions are built around the shared understanding, that if project manager failed to develop shared understanding about the goals of the project, or if team is fighting with each other, there are no set ground rules, people people do not know how to escalate, then this is also one of the scenario where project manager should show uh, his uh, his leadership skills. He should come forward. He should call for the meeting, team meeting, to set the ground rules, to set the escalation procedure, to set the conflict resolution methodology, so that we should not we should everyone should be on the same page. Yeah. So these were the topics that we discussed yesterday. Any questions, guys, from these topics? All right. I think we also touched the when we start a project, we need to know which approach we are going to take. Since from the last few meetings we are discussing the process of starting the project, so we said that okay, it's good that we know the vision. It's good that we know the stakeholders. We know the basics about the project now. At least we are in a position that we can know what is the scope of the project. If we know the scope of the project, we can decide that which approach we need to take, because scope of the project is something which if it is known, if it is very clear, then we can decide a predictive approach, or we can decide a phased approach for the project. But if the scope of the project is still complex and it is unknown, then we will straight away look for iterative options or incremental options or agile options. So this is the basic that we've been also discussing very in very detail, but this is high level summary that we are working normally on two type of projects, either plan driven or chain driven. Plan driven are straightforward projects where the scope of the project is very clear, and chain driven projects require us to take the iterative or incremental or agile approach. And we discussed this, that project life cycle and the product life cycle, and what is the difference between project life cycle and the product life cycle. So we do various projects to enhance a product. Like we do one project to create the product. And then once the product is live, we do some enhancements to that product on ongoing basis. So small iterations or small projects that we do to enhance the project are actually to evolve the product. And it continues till the product is retired. So project life cycle and product life cycle. Like product life cycle goes beyond the project life cycle, and there are multiple projects done to continuously enhance the product. Okay, and it gives us some understanding of program as well, because if you remember, the definition of program was that related projects are clubbed together in a kind of a program, and we want to achieve some benefits that we cannot achieve unless we appoint a program manager, because individually each program project manager will be looking towards achieving his project goals. However, a program manager will look interdependencies between the projects, so that holistically all the projects are completed in a well coordinated fashion, so that the benefits that are targeted should be achieved by the program. So it tells us that we can consider programs kind of ongoing things. Like projects have ended, but programs looks like programs are continuous. Because if you look at the programs done for the United Nations, if you look like programs done for the developing countries, these are started in 1965, but these programs are still running, like the United Nations program for poverty, the United Nations program for children. These are running from years and years. So with each year, there are certain benefits that are targeted, and then once the benefits are achieved, the bar is raised and then we work towards program 2.0, program 3.0 in the same fashion that we did in the last year. So it gives you the context of the projects and programs. These are done. These are just the vehicles to achieve what you want to achieve for the organization. Like you want to achieve the strategy, you want to achieve the strategy. Strategy is composed of your projects and programs. And so strategy is what, like I have an end goal, and what how I can achieve my end goal is that through strategy. And strategy is actually the other name of projects and programs, because these projects and programs are the ways to achieve your objective. Yeah. So this is a nice summary that if you're looking at the predictive life cycle, then the value you will be realizing towards the end of the project life cycle, it will be like one big bang delivery, and all the deliverables will be ready in the end. But if you look at the and exactly this is how we call it as a waterfall approach, because the work flows in a kind of like water flow. Like we complete one phase and then we move to the other phase of the project, and we do not write a single line of code until the design is done, and we do not start testing until all the code is written, and we do not deploy until all the testing is done. So it's like one module, one rundown of the all phases, and there is no going back here. I discussed this earlier as well. The big drawback of this approach is that once you are done with the feasibility, you cannot go back to the feasibility, or once you are done with the design, you cannot go back to the design. So if there is something, uh, there is a flaw in the design. If there is a flaw in the design and we didn't notice it, let's say we reach to the mid of the build phase, so now we realize that there is a flaw in the design. So it means that all the work that is done till here will be lost, because the design, we need to go back and fix the problem with the design. So since we do not have a go back, we cannot go back in this kind of life cycle, and it's very hard, um, because you already designed the whole product, and then you build the whole product in one go. Now you have to discard all the work that has been done till this point. You will have to rework, because once you change the design, every effort done for the coding is gone. So we lost a lot. But in the adaptive approaches, we said that we do not commit, we do not design for the full project. We design for certain requirements, and then we develop and test, and then we ask for the feedback. If all good, we can proceed with the next set of requirements. If there is any change is required, then we can work on the same feedback and improve the product that we have just developed, or we will not take any new feature. So that's the adaptive approach, that we have regular feedback touch points where we ask for the feedback. And in this way, since we ask for the feedback early on, if you see the early approach, the above approach, here, since we do not have the feedback, possibly feedback is at this stage. And if you ask for the feedback at this stage, it's too late. It's too late, because now it's no point to go back to the previous stage and do some fixing, because we might need to do another project to uh, to fix anything. But asking interim feedback is good, because we have a room for improvement, and we can fix a mistake early on. Yeah. Like a phase, we can use a term called cadence. So if you have a single delivery, it means that it's a project where you will have only one delivery, or you can have multiple deliveries also, or you can have a periodic delivery as well. So these are the other names of the phased project. So we already discussed about the adaptive approach and how we continuously enhance our products through the by using the adaptive approaches. So so if you remember in the past in the few lectures, I've been discussing that the concept of user stories and the MVP. So in Agile, we do not write a BRD document. BRD document or the software requirement specification documents, these are conventional terminologies. Conventional mean predictive project terminologies. But in Agile, we have user story. So user story is about one functionality actually. And we say, okay, as a customer, I want to be able to withdraw the money. I want to be able to send money to the other person. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. So user story format is very simple. That as a user, I want to log in so that I can send money. So that's the login user story. So in Agile, we define user stories and we work on user stories as a team, and we deliver to the customer and we ask for the feedback. And if we need to still fix it, we loop here and we keep on fixing it until it meets the definition of done. So it will be accepted. And we discuss that what is definition of done. Definition of done is how does the done looks like. And this is the acceptance criteria, which is already defined in the user story. Because what did we say about the user story? It is having a card, it is having conversation, and it is having confirmation. So the confirmation is what is the acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria is what, in the other terms, it is the definition of done. So there are many names for it, but this is what we say. So when we say card, it's just a placeholder. As a user, I want to be able to log in. But when we say conversation, is the discussion that the team does, and it is in the mind of everybody. Like, let's say we brainstormed in a meeting and we got a cool idea, we pasted on a wall on a sticky note. That's just a card. But then when we brainstorm and we discuss about the idea, the merit of the idea together as a team, that is the conversation. And everybody will remember to that conversation. And then once the business analyst will go ahead and he will write the user acceptance criteria, it will be written well enough, like this will be called as definition of done, right? This will be called as definition of done. Yeah. Another terminology which is used at this time when you are writing the user stories is called definition of ready. Definition of ready and definition of done are related concepts, but slightly different. When I tell you that write a user story in a very clear fashion, and I am a developer, and I ask you, you are a business analyst, so I expect from you that you write a user story in a well-defined manner so that as a developer, this story is ready for me. It meets the definition of ready, that I can right away start writing a code while reading the story. So then I will say, okay, this user story is qualified as definition of ready. Now, once I have developed according to the definition of ready, and then in my unit testing, I will go through all the acceptance criteria that was defined in the user story. And I'll say check, 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 check. Everything is checked. Now, if I checked all these things, now it's the other way around, that for the business analyst, my user story, or for customer, my user story, once it is developed, if it met all the acceptance criteria, it meets the definition of done as well. So this qualifies the story as done. I hope this distinction is clear between both of you. This, right, guys? Any question? Hello, team.
Yeah, it's fine. Thanks.
Vanish. Any question here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I said no, it's clear. I mean, when you say the definition of ready, it means that the developer is ready he knows what to start off with. And when you say definition of done, it means that he has clear specifications by which he could measure if he has delivered, like
Sure.
if he can finalize the product.
Sure. Okay. Okay, this was a quiz actually, but it's already answered. So, Danish, if you can read through.
So project professionals use a development or method, development or a method, okay, which can
Development
be
approach, actually, this.
development approach, okay, which can be predictive, iterative, incremental, adaptive, or hybrid to create and evolve a deliverable, which is a unique and verifiable product, result, or a capability to perform a service.
Cool.
Okay, a project passes through a series of logically related activities called, so it's not so fun because it's already written, phases
Yeah,
from its start to its completion. This entire process is called the life cycle of the product or the project. Acceptance of a deliverable is required to complete a process, phase, or a project. Okay.
cool. So you are supposed to use these words which are written over here to answer the fill in the blanks. And guys, if you remember initially, I said that in PMP exam as well, you will have uh, very few, maybe one, two, or three questions, which will require you to fill in the blanks. Like there will be options given, and then you need to choose. Just like this question, you will have a real question in the PMP exam as well. So you need to pick and choose like the fill in the blanks. So this is a actually scenario which is a real exam question. But the three things that this question tells you are amazing, like summarizing very well what we discussed so far. Like what is the development approach? The development approach is that project professionals use a development approach or a method, which can be either predictive, iterative, adaptive, or a hybrid to create what? A product, like a deliverable, which is what? Which is the unique and verifiable product, service, or a result or the capability that organization want to achieve. So this is one. Secondly, a project passes through series of logically related activities called phases.
I can bring them back. Not right now, Mom. I have to be there. Take an appointment now.
Okay. The third one is the acceptance of a deliverable is required. This is called validate scope or verify scope because uh, acceptance is everything, guys. Whatever we do in the end, we say customer has to accept the deliverable, right? Because they will sign it off, it will considered as done. And as customers, if customer has signed it off, then definitely as service, like if I have worked on that product, we will be able to raise the invoice. Like, okay, now we got the sign off on the deliverables, then here is the invoice, please pay us. So acceptance is important, and acceptance should be customer will not sign it off until and unless it meets the definition of done. So keep in mind the acceptance criteria, which is defined in the user story, it should be validated, verified, so that it can be considered done, and then you can raise the invoice. Yeah, we discussed a lot about predictive, iterative, and agile and incremental. But what is hybrid? We said that hybrid is the mixture of any of these. If you are still using predictive approach and part of your scope of the project, you are moving towards agile, then it means that you are using both approaches, and that could be agile. Any combination is agile, guys. Let's say I said, for example, I said that iterative and incremental. If you use iterative plus incremental, so this is at the same time it's agile characteristics of agile, and I would say it's still hybrid because it's also hybrid. So agile in fact is itself hybrid because it's a combination of two approaches, right? So one point of, or maybe one school of thought is that hybrid is the combination of agile plus predictive, which is the predominant uh, school of thought that, okay, agile is like you are a conventional organization which were into predictive uh, development life cycle, and then they started to adopt agile. Now you are hybrid. Understandable. But when we say if we are using incremental life cycle, if we are using iterative life cycle, at the same time we are saying it is agile. But one school of thought is saying that any mixture you are using, because if you remember, iterative, incremental, agile, all are adaptive approaches. They are combinedly called as adaptive approaches. Adaptive approaches. So you can say there is a possibility to adapt the product based on the feedback. But there are no two things only in the word that predictive or agile. There are three things: predictive, agile, and hybrid. Hybrid mean any combination. Either it is predictive or incremental, predictive or iterative, predictive or agile, which means that predictive plus incremental plus iterative. So I'm not confusing it, but I'm telling you that you choose any of the one, two, or three of the adaptive approaches, and you mix it with predictive, it will make you hybrid. It will make you hybrid. You choose incremental plus predictive, it will make you hybrid. You choose iterative plus predictive, it will make you hybrid. You choose both plus predictive, it will make you hybrid. Got the idea? Gigi? Confused?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, then answer this question. Oh, there's no question actually. Yeah, but use agile or iterative practices when predictive framework. Use predictive artifacts within the adaptive. So whatever I just mentioned, I think they summarize it really well here. That hybrid means that either you combine any of uh, predictive plus adaptive approaches, then you are doing hybrid. And organizations cannot right away become agile. It takes time. There is some gradual adoption. So it will be like you have predictive plus, okay, you started to take an incremental at first stage or iterative at first stage. Then you added, along the way you added incremental also. Now you are predictive plus agile. So it means that you are still hybrid. Later on, you dropped predictive and then you became fully agile. So agile does not come on the first day. You try various approaches, then you become agile. All right. So remember,
Yeah, can
yeah,
sorry, I'm cutting you.
yes, Manoj.
Is there any like good example for predictive and agile
Yeah,
together?
yeah, I'll tell you.
If you
Imagine you have,
describe as a software development or something like
yes,
manufacturing or any industry.
true. So you think about a mobile device, for example, or let's say a mobile device, it has a hardware and it has a software. So hardware is always predictive, like you know what the hardware is, right? It the specs don't change. You need to develop a hardware which is very specific. So any work that you will do for a hardware, it will be always predictive fashion. You will procure items, materials, everything is well known. But when it comes to software, the requirements will be varying. So whenever the requirements are varying, then you need to take up the scope of work as agile fashion. So mobile device itself, like developing a mobile device itself is a hybrid project, because for hardware part, it will be convenient to use a predictive approach. And for developing the software, it will be convenient to use the adaptive approach. And consider at the large scale level, all the migration projects or infrastructure projects require hybrid approach, because infra mean hardware like PCs, software, sockets, everywhere. If you walk into the organization, the conventional procurement for the servers and setting up the LAN network and the ports and configurations, everything goes as the infra project. But part of it, if it is migration to cloud, or if it is something which is purely software, right? So it could be taken up as an agile. So any infra project, cloud migration, any infra project that has two components, hardware and software, can be considered as hybrid, because we have visible component, we have something which is fixed, the requirements which is fixed, which is can be taken up as a predictive, and we have a varied variable scope for which we can use the adaptive approach. I hope I made it clear.
Thanks.
Now I got a question.
Yes, George.
Okay, so here's a little scenario. Got a question. I'm hired on as a project manager for a company, and in the past, they've had 5 other project managers that were hired on and got fired, and now I'm the 5th one. Now this company is real high maintenance. I can already see from the other 5 project managers' failures, when I'm picking the approach that I'm going to have with this company, obviously I'm going to be picking agile. Now, you had said that when you're writing it out, you're not going to start off with agile. But in a situation like this, where they've had 5 other project manager failures, where everything was changing and everything was this and always something changing. So I'm going to start out writing it in an agile in the first place, correct?
Correct. But what is the question? That are we going to choose agile because the previous project managers were
Correct.
supposedly
Right. Yes.
supposedly using predictive and they were all failing?
Right.
Okay. So see, when I mentioned that I emphasize the use of hybrid approach, which in fact is an agile approach, because we said that, yeah, definitely we will have some thing taken up as a predictive, but we will be trying agile flavor as well. So it's a hybrid. Okay. So my emphasis is that the scope of work, if you understand it, and if it is very clear, it's just like the purchase of equipment. Let's say you are setting up a data center and you just need to purchase the racks, the servers, the cables, the joints, these things. This is a project. So everything is visible. Everything is like in a data center is the piece of like, it's very clear, right? So you can write a BOQ. You can write the bill of quantities, and then you can order everything. And then your work is that you just need to manage the complexity of the work of the setting up the data center with the servers and the racks and the cables and the technicians and the managing the work. Now you can perceive this kind of work, and it's very, and the tangible things that you are setting up a office space or the server room. So it looks to me a predictive project. Okay. So, but let's say it is not only about setting up a server, but it's also looking towards our security requirements, or any softwares for the remote connectivity, the virtual private network. So looking at the scope of work, if you felt like there is some variable part of it as well, which you cannot straight away write the requirements, but you need to take a adaptive approach or the agile approach. As and when you will be clear, you will be writing that scope of work, and then asking or for estimation or moving on with the development, right? So if the things are very clear and other project managers have been struggling to put down a nice predictive plan, what need to be done and when need to be done, and you came in and then you handled it in a predictive fashion, cool. And then if you found out that there is certain part of the scope which require further brainstorming, which is not right now clear, this means that you also combined with your predictive approach and agile approach.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Welcome. So guys, we've been talking or hearing tailoring, and this means that we can tailor, cut, and everything. Like it gives us an impression that tailor your methodology, tailor. If you're using a framework, tailor it. If you're using a process, tailor it. Like tailoring mean like one size does not fit all, right? So you need to tailor it, and then as per your need, you need to adopt it, which is a good idea. But always remember, many things can be tailored. Like your life cycle can be tailored. You can pick and choose predictive, agile, adaptive, like the way I told you. Like it's a grocery list. You can choose, right? Your development life cycle or your ways of working, your management processes, you can change, you can tailor. But remember, principles cannot be tailored. Like principles, I mean that your stakeholder engagement strategy, your your attitude as a steward of the team, your attitude to welcome change. I mean your attitude to deliver the value to the customer, your focus on the delivery, your focus on delivering working software. These are some principles that we cannot tailor. We cannot say, okay, sometimes I will be focusing on delivering working software, and sometimes I will be lazy. I will be not. No, you have to always focus on delivering of a working software. So principles cannot be tailored, but ways of working, methods, processes, your change management approaches, you want to have a strict control on changes, or you want to have a flexible approach on changes to everything, can be tailored as per the situation. Your governance can be tailored. Okay, we are not happy with too much of meetings daily, weekly. Let's not be tight, let's lose it. So we will have, okay, one weekly stand up, not daily stand ups. So these are the tailoring scenarios. Like in your governance is like command and control. So you can have a strict command and control with daily 15-minute stand up, or you can have a loose command and control with a weekly stand up. So look, governance can be tailored as well. But here in this list, you will not find any principle that can be tailored. The principles in the project management are 12 principles as per the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, or the principles for the Agile that we discussed, the 12 principles as per the Agile Manifesto. Those cannot be tailored. Values cannot be tailored. Values cannot be tailored, like integrity, uh, transparency. We have to be always transparent. We have to be always ethical. Okay. Okay. I think we touched these questions, but these are the good questions. So our scope of work will decide the development approach, or will at least influence the development approach, and how many releases will this project need, how many iterations each release will require. So for example, this will all depend. I will go to this Excel sheet, and I'll just try to create a scenario that we have releases which can be release 1, release 2, and release 3. Okay. But if you remember, we did this earlier as well. Each release can have various sprints. We can decide, okay, we are going to release after one sprint, and our product, our feature is ready and we are releasing it. Or maybe one release may have sprint 2 plus sprint 3. And another release might have, again, sprint 4 plus sprint 5 and 6. So the point that I'm trying to make is that releasing is in our hand. Releasing is in our hand, that what is going to production and when it is going to production. But remember that we should be releasing because we need to release a working software. So that's the principle, that we cannot compromise when we are not releasing and developing and developing and developing and things are getting stacked. So we should always have a release schedule once a month. We should have a release schedule, maybe one feature a month. At least that shows some productivity. You are working, but remember the only currency, is the working software is the only currency. That the more working software you deliver, customer will get, okay, dollar in, dollar out. I am getting the value of dollar spent on the developers developing the stuff, improving the stuff, because new features are getting out to the market and customers are liking those features, disliking those features, no problem. We are getting some feedback. But if we are not going to the market with new features and we are constantly developing sprints after sprints and not releasing, then also there is an issue. So this tells you that uh, deliverable type and development approach influence the number of iterations for each project deliverable. The development approach and the desired delivery cadence determine the project lifecycle and the phases. So this confirms what we've been discussing so far. And and our scope of work will let us decide that a feature, if it can be developed in a sprint, then why not we can release it as well after the end of the sprint. But if a feature requires 2 sprints to develop and it's ready, then we can release it after 2 sprints. But it all comes to the scope of work that we have committed and we have completed. So being a project manager within, let's say, in agile environment, the role comes towards delivering the value. Like a delivery manager, you are constantly focusing on delivering benefits to the organization. Although you have little say in deciding the product features, but you are responsible for releasing those product features on time. Because again, each sprint that is done, it has a cost. It has some developers cost, testers cost, and it has some team cost. Even Scrum Master cost comes under it. So as a PM, your job is that you should make sure that the work that is going into the sprint is getting completed at the end of the sprint. So no spillovers. Guys, if user stories are committed in a sprint, these should not spill over to the next sprints. It means we are not finishing, or we are overcommitting, or we have a capacity issue, or we need to reassess our capacity, or we need to look where we are not productive. So these are the areas as a PM you should be aware of, that just spending 14 days doing nothing is not progress. Each person of the development team has a story, as a target of a story, number of story points for each sprint. Like as a developer, let's say team velocity is 14. It means that each developer in a team individually has worked on 14 story points in the 14 days sprint. And that tells you some KPI to measure. But does it mean that working on story points is productivity? No. Velocity is a measure of productivity, but it does not tells you if nothing is released. I spent a lot of time on story, but story was either written unwell, like it was not written properly. It was not having any, it was not meeting the definition of ready. I can blame the business analyst that he has not written the story in a way that I could right away work, fine. But have it written. Being a PM, my job should be that each story is well written so that we should not waste developers' time to understand and start developing late, and then the story is spilled over to the next sprint because either it was written improperly. So being a PM, your job should be that governance, that governing the product owner, that before a sprint starts, let's say a week before the sprint starts, all the user stories are well defined, well written, groomed, and ready. Definition of ready, like to that level that a developer will be able to start a week after, but he should be able to start right away. So that's the job of a PM. I hope I have made it little bit clear for you guys. Any questions?
Hi, Sham. I
Yeah.
just wanted to request if it is possible that you supply us with additional sample questions and categorize them according to the lecture topics that we have covered. Let's say for one topic, like you could supply us with some additional questions that we can practice
Sure.
during our time before
No
we
problem.
meet.
Sorry, no problem.
Thank you.
So what you can do, all of you have the access to our learning management system, this one. What I'm going to do, since we are completing this second module as well, right? So during this next 2 days, I will populate the quizzes within the module, just like the way we had 4 questions within the module 1. So I'll populate related questions in the module 2, just like the way we did 4 questions. So I'll populate as many questions which are related to the topics that we already discussed. So after, let's say, 2 days, you will be able to see those questions here, and then before our next class, you will be able to practice those. Okay.
That would be excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to our module. Okay. So why we are taking agile approaches is always because the project looks like it's complex and it's unclear. Is my screen still visible? Yeah. Okay. So when the requirements are not clear, we need to take an agile approach. But from the standpoint of a scrum master or from the standpoint of the project manager, we do need to assess the resource requirements, like how many developers hours, how many front-end development work we need, how much back-end development work we need, how many developers we need to have in this sprint, and so on. So that assessment is not possible until we are clear what are the requirements. So it's always um, it's always a guesswork, but it's guessed based on the understanding that we develop about the product. So when it comes to complexity, we can have a simple project, we can have a simple set of requirements, and then we can assess right away. If it comes to complications, certain thing is not straightforward, it is complicated. So the next level is that it's complex, and then the extreme level is that it chaos, like there's no clarity at all, right? So you can have the set of requirements which are well defined, which are clear. You can have set of requirements which are complicated but somewhat understandable. You can have a complexity gray area where everything looks like complex, and then you can have a field which is an open field, which is a which is totally chaos. You don't understand anything at all. Now, looking at the as a PM or as the project progresses, we have to bring clarity. So we have to reduce uncertainty. We have to reduce risk, because in the risk bar is high in the initiation phase of the project. Like, it's too complex. But we took this challenge to make it certain, from uncertain to certain. So what we will be doing, we'll be working towards number of ways to make it certain, to increase the probability of success, to increase the clarity on the requirements. So through brainstorming, through discussions, what we are going to achieve, certainty. So with the passage of time, the certainty should come in and uncertainty should go away. So that's the role of a PM, that he take up a chaos situation, but he worked on it and he bring it to complex. He brought it back to complicated. He brought it back to simple. So how we work? We work from the top risky requirements, and we try to tackle those risky requirements and bring some clarity around those risky requirements. And this is one way that, okay, let's take up the big task and then let's break it down into smaller tasks and understand it. And then we make it less complex, because always when you start, you begin, it looks like a big task. So the way that you can take up is to decompose and take step-by-step approach. That will really help you, because once you break it down into simple problems and take up simple problems one by one, that will really help you to tackle a big chaos or complex project. So a model that we can see here is, to sum up, it's called Stacy complexity model, and it tells you that is it feasible in terms of like it's a technically feasible project or not. It depends all how well the requirements are written or defined, or can we have any clarity on the requirements. So the more it's simple, the more it will be technically feasible. So a lot of the times when a project starts, a feasibility is done, and that is a technical feasibility. I know that we have to consider financial feasibility, but that is done. The business case has been approved. So financially it is feasible. We are able to get funds for this project. But now it comes to technical things, that are we capable to deliver it? But let us understand technically if it is doable. So scope is known, then we'll assess it technically, that yes, it is feasible or not feasible. If it is, and anything can be done. But looking at the project from the technical feasibility standpoint, you can have a situation which is chaos. You can have a situation which is complex. You can have a situation, requirements which are complicated or requirements which are simple. So more and more the project is chaos and complex or complicated, you will look for the adaptive approaches. And if you see the indication over here is that adaptive approaches work really well here when the scope of work is complex or complicated, right? And linear approaches work where you have the simple projects. By linear, I mean the one cycle, the predictive approaches. Definitely chaos is, nobody will take it up, because there the chances of success are very low. But there might be projects which are complicated, which are risky, but there is a lot of reward in it. So these are worth exploring. But this requires a lot of work from the PM to bring it to this level of clarity, like a chaos situation to complex, to complicated, and to simple. But it is looking towards backward. Like, you have high risk items, you tackle those high risk items, and then you take up the low risk items. It all depends on the approach of the PM. I hope this is clear. Any questions on this? Okay. So we have another model, which is the suitability filter. And these are infographics which are really used by the consultants and the people who sell the excellent ideas and projects. And they summarize these things in a real simple fashion. So they say, okay, where the agile is applicable, where the hybrid approach is applicable, and where the predictive approach is applicable. So these are the areas or the circles, if you see, that I think it should come up with, it should be coming with one of the table, but it's not here. So I would not be able to explain you that what does it mean. On a scale of 1 to 10, if you think that it's complex project, then you are going to start with the agile approach. But the complexity, as soon as the complexity is reducing, you can utilize the predictive approach or the linear approach. So I think this is one of the things that I could elaborate without having the full data. So I need to come back to this sheet. Well, different infographics to explain the same thing. We have been discussing about the development approaches. Either we are using predictive, hybrid, or adaptive. And as I said, that iterative, incremental, and agile, these all comes under adaptive approaches, right? So agile, in fact, is a combination of incremental and iterative. And iterative alone is also coming under the adaptive approaches. And hybrid is that you can use any of these at the same time along with using the predictive. So the more and more we move towards flexible approaches, adaptive approaches, we are going to utilize incremental and adaptive together. But alone, if we are using, it is the predictive approach. There is no video here. All right. I would like to take up the Scrum in the next class, because Scrum is a good framework that we all should know. It's the visual framework, one of the agile and one of the incremental and iterative framework, which we've been discussing a couple of times. What are the sprints? What are the daily stand-up? What are the retrospective meetings? We already know it. But I would like to share with you the full cycle. How does a Scrum team works? What are the roles in the Scrum team? What is the sprint planning? What is the release planning? All these topics are important from the agile perspective, and I would be taking up in the next class. I hope I am done with the today's class. If you guys have any questions from the today's class, you can raise your hand. Sorry for short class today, because also I need to excuse for some dinner. So sorry for the short class.
Eid Mubarak again, Sham, to you and your family. And yeah, we do understand that, of course, families first. So have a great dinner.